Hello everyone. In today's video, I want to discuss a topic that has been debated, especially for the past years or throughout the past decade. Many wrestling fans have been talking all over the internet, all over YouTube, in different rants on why, wrestling changed so much. I mean, if you've been watching wrestling since the 90s or the 2000s, because these were the periods of time when, wrestling was at its peak. Wrestling peaked at the end of the 1990s and in the early 2000s, and then it faded away sort of by itself. Many products went from TV-14 to TV-PG, but that was not really the main reason why the content was no longer the same. So now I'm going to present you some of the main reasons why I believe, watching wrestling today is no longer the same as it was like 2 decades ago. So why wrestling is not like in that today is not like in the 1990s or the 2000s. So the main reason is the fact that we have too much inside information. We all know that wrestling is scripted and the moves are improvised. Back in the day, there were not that many documentaries about wrestlers, about about the backstage, about the backstage politics and so on. We knew nothing about it. So, people were watching the TV and, they used to believe that, wow, this thing is real, even though there were some aspects of it that, every adult could understand that, okay, this looks fake, it has to be fake. But there were, back in the day, the wrestlers could sell the moves really good. And so, wrestling in the 1980s, in the early 1990s, had uh, some drops of reality show look like, at least, to say so. However, nowadays, there are so many documentaries on, how wrestlers, sell the move, sell their moves, how they pretend that they get hurt. And, we all know that the results of the matches are decided before the match. And so we know too many things about, wrestling backstage. And so, it's no longer that much of a sport as it is a show. Now, the second thing that changed is the fans. The people in the stands are not as excited as they once were. We remember, in late 1990s, WCW shows or, WWF shows, and even in WWE, up until 2009, I guess, the intros of Raw or SmackDown were really, so pyro and excitement. Everyone had almost everyone there had like a sign or something like a banner or a message with their favorite wrestler or shirts. But and the excitement when when the show went on. However, nowadays the fans are just, the crowd is very tuned down compared to, the Attitude Era or the Ruthless Aggression Era crowds. Now, the third thing are the spoilers. Nowadays we have people on throughout the internet that, they are the ones who, prior to the shows, they predict what's going to happen. Prior to WrestleMania, we know who's coming for WrestleMania. Nothing is no longer news. Like, we know if The Rock is going to come back in 3 weeks or not. And, spoilers, they ruin, the element of surprise in wrestling, and not just in wrestling. Now, the fourth thing, people no longer watch wrestling shows at the TV. Basically, back in the day, wrestling was only available at the TV, right? However, nowadays, due to some circumstances, people often prefer to watch, the Monday Night Raw, or, SmackDown, or, TNA. They prefer to watch it the second day or the third day. And, basically you're just watching, recording of the show. But when you do that, you are always tempted to skip everything to see what's going on. You're not, if you're skipping 40, 50 minutes of the show, you're not actually watching it. You're seeing some sequences of it. So, but when back in the day, we had no option of, seeing the resume on the laptop. And so for some reason, even with movies, when you're watching them at the TV and you don't have, the option to, to see what's going on, halfway through, you don't have the button, you don't have the option. Suddenly you're sort of, more tuned in on the screen. And now the last reason is the fact that the shows are too lengthy. A 3-hour show makes you tired regardless of the outcome. Like, you might be a very, very, very big wrestling fan. However, if you want to watch everything, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, the shows are too lengthy. There's too many brands, too many labels, and you can't really keep up with everything. I remember that in my prime wrestling years, I used to watch Raw, SmackDown, and TNA, and this was the period, I think, 2006, 2005. And back then, Raw was 2 hours. SmackDown, I think it was 1 hour, and TNA 1 hour. So, 4 hours per week. 4 hours per week, and taking into account the fact that the shows were actually, worth it. It was a good deal. But nowadays, Raw, I think, is 3 hours. And SmackDown is 2 hours. It's just too spread, and they no longer have the roster, and they try to fill in those spaces with different things. And so, yep, these are the top 5 reasons why I believe wrestling is not gonna be the same again, like in the 90s or the 2000s, because the times have changed. We now have, social media. We know, wrestling is not real. We know what superstar is going to be back for, this week's WWE show. And so, they should rather, concentrate more somehow on the, the backstage heat between, rivalry between the superstars, because that one is for real, and that will adjust to the modern times. Will add some beats of reality to sports entertainment. Yep, so that was all. You can let me know in the comments, what do you believe, why wrestling is not going to be the same again. Bye bye.
What's this cheater up to? Oh! He's in danger of being pinned.